Good evening, everyone, and welcome into Beyond the Boxscore, our weekly program where we break down all the latest football action from the high school, college, and professional level. I'm your host, Mark Mize, and joined once again this week by my co host, Chandler Harmon. Chandler, another great week of football, a couple road contests for Giles County and Richland, but in region openers, unfortunately, both teams got their first region loss.
Yeah, Mark, and unfortunately, some things to clean up. But at least for Giles County, they go into a bye week, whereas Richland goes on the road again.
Yeah, and I think for both teams, a big thing coming forward is getting some guys healthy. Giles gets a chance to do that coming out of the bye week. Had heard some inkling from O'Connor that maybe we get our running backs back in a couple weeks, and so should be good there. As for Richland, they still do have to play again this week as they're head to community, but hopefully that's a get-right game for them, and both teams can get back on the right track.
Absolutely. I've seen some great things from both teams as far as correcting some of the issues they've had early on in the season, and I don't think that this will be any different. I think they'll go in and fix what they saw they did wrong in their losses, and they'll get better from here.
It was also a great week of football on the college gridiron, as you might have had the game of the year. I know it's a little early to say that, but Tennessee versus Georgia really lived up to the hype.
I know it was a great game. And I think my hopes of Aguilar being a Heisman favorite, they've gone up a little bit. He did really good in that first quarter of play. And I think that was a game to really hang your hat on and look at and say, I can be better and I can develop more as the season goes on.
It's funny because we're going to talk a little bit about this in our final segment where we talk some college football. But, coming into the season, you're talking about the Heisman favorites from the SEC being guys like Manning, Nussmeier, Sellers, Lagway. And those guys have fallen off a little bit. And suddenly guys like Aguilar, Stockton, Prabula, Pavia, you're seeing some new names kind of rise to the top there. So should be a great season there in college football. We've already had a great season in high school football. And we're going to hear a little bit more from that in just a moment. After this timeout, we'll hear from Chandler and our good friend Chris Bledsoe covering some Giles County football here on Beyond the Box Score.
Gas Department of Pulaski is here to help you save money. Natural gas is safe, efficient, and cost-effective. It's up to 50 to 60% less expensive than electricity for home heating. Plus, it's clean and efficient, so you can feel good about your choice. Call us today for service or visit our website to learn more. Make the switch to natural gas and start saving today.
And we're back. And joining me here for the Giles County segment is none other than Chris Bledsoe. Chris, how are you doing, man?
Man, I'm excited. It's always fun to get a chance to be here. Missed last week, and it just broke my little heart not getting a chance to be here with you guys. So I'm super excited to be back.
And we're glad to have you. Big game for Giles, opening up region play at Watertown. Some great things that they did on offense, some not great things. What do you think of what the game was like for them?
It's always tough to lose a ball game, period, but it's even more so difficult when you lose a region matchup, especially to a team that you probably went into thinking that you can, get out of here pretty easily. But it just goes to show in high school football, you got to take everybody seriously. You got to put your best foot forward each and every night and put yourself in position to win ball games, especially against teams who may not be on paper as talented as you are. And when you're playing on their home turf, they already have their crowd at their back. You don't want to give them any extra added momentum, in those type of situations. And so I think, unfortunately, the Bobcats did that with some costly mistakes that ended up being pivotal in the ball game.
Absolutely. You talked about costly mistakes. Going into the matchup, no turnovers on the season. Ended up with 3 and losing the total turnover battle 3-1. Where do you think the team kind of goes from there, and what do you think they can do to kind of improve on that going into their next game?
Well, some of that I think you're going to watch on film. Obviously, they watch film on Sunday, and you take a chance to see where some of those miscues happened, what led to some of those things, some of that ball security. You just got to take care of it better, interception here or there. And so things like that, you want to look at those plays. And I think it's super important to see, especially like the interceptions, like where were your eyes? What did you see as opposed to what the defense were doing, what the defense did, those type of things. So we're on the same page. And then ball security, that's something you preach every week at every level, from Pop Warner to the NFL, Monday through Thursday or Friday, we're talking ball security at every level. So that's something I think they'll work heavily on over the next couple weeks. And I think they'll be a much different ball team coming out of the bye week. For Bobcat fans, this bye week couldn't have come at a better time. You get a chance to really kind of fix some issues, try to get healthy before you get into this, deep stretch of play for Giles County. For the Bobcats themselves, I would hate to be on the team this week knowing that I have no game coming Friday and I just stuck with David O'Connor and Joe O'Connor after turning the ball over 3 times and losing a region ball game. A lot of places you want to be, but over at high school this week getting one of them.
Absolutely. And, obviously some injuries. Hannah stepping up, not planning to be the starting running back this season, ended up, having to step up in 2 games back to back. Had a bunch of big plays, ended up with a few touchdowns. What do you think that means for the team overall, having Hannah be able to step up like that?
Well, I think what we saw with Xavier Hannah is a lot credited to some guys that we maybe haven't mentioned, and that's guys like Damari Allen, Jazz Bentley, and T. Ray Cheatham. Because coming into this season, Hannah was probably your only receiver with any productivity coming into the year. And so with the productivity you've gotten from Bentley and you've gotten from Damari Allen and then T. Ray Cheatham, all of a sudden we don't have to – if we don't go 4 wide, well, let's pull Hannah out, put him in the backfield because we know we can give it to him. He can tote the football. So it's been a huge addition for the Bobcat offense and what he's able to do. And I think he's going to be better. What I look forward to is as this season begins to trickle and you start to get guys like David Bridges back in uniform and back fully healthy, and you look at now all of a sudden it's one of those 2-head monster type deals. It's no secret. I said it Monday night with JP, when the weather gets cold, the temperature drops, you're wearing a hoodie, you can see your breath in the air. David O'Connor wants to run it 50 times a night if he can. And now all of a sudden it sounds crazy, but when you've got 2 running backs that can run it as well as David Bridges and Xavier Hannah, now all of a sudden 25 touches apiece, that's not too wild. He had 28 touches in his ball game Friday night. So now he's able to split those, and just imagine those 2 guys, because David Bridges, up until his injury, had some really decent ball games, to that point. So I think having him getting him back healthy, having Xavier Hannah back there, I think what the Bobcat offense could be explosive, because then you had David Bridges back, you got Hannah, them running the ball so well. Now all of a sudden you can't forget that you got a quarterback in Randolph that has a cannon for an arm, can put it on a dot. So it takes 3 yards, a cloud of dust 2 times, and they hit you over the top with a play action to Damari Allen. So again, I think it's a lot of good things can come of it, but you got to take care of business at home first. Forget about what everybody else is doing. You guys hear me say this every week, and I wasn't here last week, and maybe I take some responsibility, Bobcat Nation, because I didn't get a chance to say can't play Santa Claus and win high school football games. And we went over there Friday night. We gave away a lot of gifts, and unfortunately gave away a ball game.
Absolutely. One of those key turnovers being on Hannah's rush, that would have been a touchdown for the Bobcats, giving them a 2-score lead and potentially ice the game, because they only lost by 1 score in the end. So turnovers are going to be a big part of figuring it out going into the bye week. Obviously, getting healthy, another big one. Coach O'Connor said, hopefully maybe some guys can come back on that. Maybe this will give them the time they need to recover. So, it's going to be some exciting stuff coming out of that bye week.
Oh, for sure. You're going to get some of those guys back. And then something else that you obviously can't not mention is the loss of Tate Bedford. You lose Tate Bedford last in the Cowbell ball game. Had a knee injury, ended up having to have some surgery. Shout out to Tate. Congratulations. I know the surgery went well. I got a chance to talk to him on Monday, so we're super excited for that. Looking for him to get back, in the upcoming year. But losing a guy like him that's such a on-field and vocal leader, it's hard to replace in 4 days. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't think we even knew Tate was possibly even injured until late Sunday going into Monday, and all of a sudden now you're scrambling Monday. Who's gonna call signals? Who's gonna be in charge of this, that, and the third? And so sometimes you don't understand and value what a kid like Tate does until he's not out there. Now all of a sudden, when you're in the heat of battle and you're having to make on-the-fly changes, not having that vocal leader out there can be difficult. And so I think this bye week gives them a chance to find who's going to be that guy, because unfortunately Tate's not coming back, running through the smoke until next August sometime. So somebody's got to step up. Somebody else got to be that leader, and I think there are guys that can do that and can fill that role. And I think having this bye week here will give you time to do a gut check, because here's the other part. Without a doubt, you knew coming into the season you had a bullseye on your back, but now you've got a loss on your record, and you've got there's blood in the water, and the Sharks are circling, because now all of a sudden this so-called Giles County State Championship team is beatable. And so they knew that in the region, you know what I'm saying? And so this is only the second loss in the Bobcat since we've been in this region, second loss period. One coming last year to Sequatchie, and then this one against Watertown. So now people are starting to find that confidence. You're going to get everybody's best shot now, even more so than you would have before the loss against Watertown. So you just got to, again, take care of business at home. So control what you can control. I still think we're the most talented team left in this region. And as much as we hate to lose that ball game, Chandler, everything you want to do is still in front of you. You need a little help now. You're going to need somebody to go beat Watertown, to make them probably – you need them to have 2 losses. But then if you can win out, Watertown has 2 losses, I think you're in a good position to, still be in first place and get a chance to host playoffs at the house. So you just got to take care of business and then let everything else take care of itself.
Absolutely. And so, obviously, it's not great to start 0-1 in region play, but there's still a whole season, like you said, ahead of them. So hopefully we can see them, learn from this experience and move forward, with better clarity on what they want to do. So going into the bye week, what are some things, 3 big things you think they need to do looking on to the rest of the season?
I think the first thing that stands out to me more than anything is being able to correct body language in the midst of adversity. I saw it late in the ball game against Lawrence County, and then just a little bit. I was flying back in from Orlando, and you guys be glad to know thanks to Southwest, I was tuned in on the Facebook feed and were able to catch the majority of that as I was coming back into Nashville Airport, and we got landed, and I was watching, and some of the things just watching body language, because when Watertown's crowd got behind them, it started to get loud over there. You can see again some distress, and you've got to correct those things and understand that even in close ball games, we are who we are. We're still a good football team, and that we can still go win this ball game regardless of what's happening around us. And so correcting some of that. I saw it late in the game against Lawrence County too. Lawrence County went on a bit of a run there. We couldn't get stopped. We were struggling with the ball offensively, and then we lost our sense of morale and lost who we were. And sometimes body language is more telling than anything. And so I think correcting some of that, and then the biggest thing, number 2, is getting healthy. You have to get healthy. You have to get healthy. You have to get healthy. We're a really good football team. I truly believe that. I spoke to an individual here recently who made a statement that, Giles County is just one injury away, a lot of places, from, changing the complexion of their season. And we've seen that already. And so I think just getting healthy, getting everybody back. It wouldn't even surprise me if next week, when I think it's Lincoln County that comes to town, if the 26th, if some of those guys that may be dinged up don't play against Lincoln County, because it's crazy to think about it, Chandler, but we're at the halfway point. Next Friday we're talking about being 5 weeks into the season, and all of a sudden, it's here. You know what I'm saying? You're just 5 weeks away from talking about playoff football. So just getting healthy is the other thing, and then lastly and most importantly, finding out who you are going to be as a football team. What's your identity? When things are good, when things are not good, who are you going to be? And I think that's what this bye week does. I know without a shadow of a doubt, guys like Joe O'Connor, David O'Connor, Tanner Holly have done nothing but challenge this team since Sunday afternoon when we started watching film. Again, because nobody's going to pat you on your back. Nobody cares about the fact you went over there and lost. There's no sympathy for you in the region. So you got to find that and just trust your guys here. And, again, lock in on what you want to be, who you're going to be on the field, off the field, and take that identity everywhere you go. And then realize that we can still control our own destiny. There's a lot of football left. Just take care of business. I think you'll be in a good position.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us, Chris. Real quick, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll hear from Coach O'Connor himself after the loss in Watertown.
When it comes to insurance, Winterburr & Associates Insurance is the team you can trust. We offer coverage for your home, auto, business, and more. We work hard to find the best policy for you at the best price. Our personalized service means we take the time to understand your needs and make sure you understand your options. We want you to feel confident and secure with your insurance policy. Let us make insurance simple for you. Get a quote today at winterburrinsurance.com or call us at 931-363-8638.
So, Coach, obviously tough loss tonight, but overall, some good plays. What do you think you saw from the offense that was good tonight? Maybe were some things you need to improve on going into the bye week?
I think we did some good. We ran the ball well at times. I thought we passed the ball well at times. I think there's a lot of room for improvement on both sides of the ball still. Big thing is trying to get some of the guys back we've got injured that are out. You're walking around, you bring 9 to the game that's out, injured, so that makes it tough. But we had a chance to win. Got to hold on to the football there late, going to the end zone. Fumbles into the end zone. That makes it tough.
Absolutely. Hannah stepping up, not normally the starting running back, made some big plays, got a few scores. What do you think that means to the team, having someone being able to step up like that?
Oh, I mean, there's no doubt. He's one of the best athletes around here. So, and it's just a matter of time until he develops into the great player I expect him to be.
Absolutely. And then, you mentioned some injuries, going into the bye week. Is there some hope that maybe with having that week off, that maybe we'll see some more of the players back on the field?
We sure hope so.
Absolutely.
For a new job, let M&M Staffing be your guide. With over 20 years of experience, we know how to connect great people with great opportunities. We work with over 80 companies, so we're sure to find the perfect job for you. Our team is dedicated to helping you succeed, and our high customer satisfaction rate proves it. Ready to get started? Visit us at mnmstaffing.net or give us a call today at 931-347-4255.
And welcome back into Beyond the Box Score. You just heard from Chris Bledsoe, Chandler Harmon, and David O'Connor as we covered Giles County football, which has a bye week coming up. But some football will be played this Friday night as Richland will take on Community in a non-region matchup, another matchup versus a team from a higher classification. I'm Mark Mize once again, joined by Dylan Manus for the second straight week. Dylan, it's truly an honor.
Mark, I appreciate it. Always good to talk some ball with you.
Absolutely. Dylan and I actually got a chance to cover Richland versus Huntland in their region opener this past week on WKSR radio, which of course we'll be doing for much of the season. Might hear from Dylan at least one more time on WKSR this year. And so it was a lot of fun. We want to thank JP Plant, Morgan Hoover, Isaiah Beckman now, and of course Kenny Beckman as well. And it was a lot of fun to get a chance to head over there. But unfortunately for the Raiders, 2-2 on the season now, and 0-1 in region play as they fall 21-7 to Huntland. Just initially, what were your thoughts after having a chance to see Richland for the first time this year?
Yeah, being the first time, you hear things going in. You might see a clip or two of another game, and you know that there's talent on the team. They have a highly talented freshman, Gavin Schrader, coming in. Of course, he's got the size. He's got a great arm. He's going to be very good, very talented. And they got a lot of good players back from last year's great team that went deep into the playoffs. And so on the road, starting region play, they've played two teams that are above them as far as a division, I guess. But with Richland being 1A, and then you have a Spring Hill, a White County Heritage, I believe.
White House Heritage.
White House Heritage, excuse me. But and they do well. And then you get into a region game like this, and we think, well, if you could take care of the teams bigger than you, what can you do here? And so going in, of course, Huntland's had good teams. Huntland and Richland know each other very well. But we know that they were a very good rushing team, and we certainly saw that going in. But I think we were both going in, you and I were very confident that Richland could hold their own in this game.
I think this is going to come down to one of those games where when you watch the tape the next day, it's what could have been.
Yeah.
Because 4 or 5 plays really end up being the tail of the tape in this game. For me personally, Richland ends up losing the turnover battle 3-1, if I'm not mistaken there. All 3 of their turnovers were in opponent's territory. And then you look at them holding Huntland to 317 yards on the problem there was on 29 plays, they held them to just over 100 yards. On 3 plays, they gave up 196 yards on 3 total plays. All 3 of those plays were over 60 yards. And so it was a case where Richland would make 4, 5, 6 straight, just great defensive stops, and then give up a 60-yarder. And, those plays where you're so close to getting off the field, so close to getting a punt and getting your offense back out there, and then you give up the big play, that really ended up being the difference maker on a defense that was missing Cam McNeese on the defensive line and also Lucas Tarpley in the secondary. Not being able to get off the field, I think, was the thing that was really the difference maker.
Yeah. How many times did we see the Richland defense force Huntland into a 3rd or 4th down situation, and then they were able to convert? Much of it because of the athleticism of Grant Jernigan and what he was able to do, really taking over the game for much of the night.
Yeah, and Jernigan ends up finishing with, if you take out his kneels, he had 182 yards and a touchdown. And then the interesting thing is Julius Miller had 1 carry all night, but it was a 62-yard touchdown and really the one that put the game out of reach there. And so, I think for the Raiders, this is probably the best situation you can be in where you're getting community this week. It's a get-right game, but really, I just hope for Richland and for, the coaches, the players, they still realize that everything that they were hoping to do this season is still in front of them. You look at this region race. Fayetteville City suddenly is looking really good after what they did to Cornersville. I think Eagleville is not quite as good as I expected them to be, but I'll be honest with you, Dylan, I don't think Huntland wins this region. And because your first loss is to a team that probably isn't your region champ, means that by winning those other games, you potentially can get back and still have a chance for that region championship. And so it's not as if this is a decisive game for whether or not they can win the region championship. It's just that you get yourself off on the wrong foot. And now one of those games later on the schedule where, hey, maybe you could have gotten away with a loss. Now you need to be pretty perfect from here on out.
Yeah, very much like when you're on an offensive possession and you get behind the sticks. Now you're playing from behind. It's not insurmountable, but it certainly puts pressure on you. You got to be on your toes a little bit, because once you start, if you lose another game, okay, now you're at 2. Might end up being tied with somebody. How are you going to look head to head? So you do want to have a little bit more urgency, but also still play your ball game.
Yeah, and there were some good things. I mean, that 17-yard run by Landon Harbison on the 4th down where, he came out, pretended to do the rugby punt, and he just took off down the sideline. That was such a great play. Got them in a really good position to continue that drive there. The Hudson Griggs interception, one of the most athletic diving interceptions I've seen in the last few seasons. And then Gavin Schrader, ends up committing 3 turnovers. He also had some really good plays. And do you think there's a time where maybe being a freshman, being as heralded as he is, do you think maybe we're putting a little bit too much pressure on a 14-year-old who has still shown a lot of good things this year, but once again is still playing his first ever high school football?
Yeah, I think for us as fans, it can be deceiving because he doesn't look 14.
Right.
And the fact that he has been in this type of system offensively, even going back to middle school. So you're playing with the same coaching staff, the same head coach. It's their system. And so in one sense, I think we'd like to believe it's going to be seamless. But to your point, Mark, it's still a learning process. He's a freshman. He's playing against different teams, bigger teams, different athletes, better athletes than what you saw in middle school. And so it's an adjustment to learning the skill set of the people that are around you. There may be some pressure there that I have to be the hero or I have to overcompensate. And really, especially for a freshman coming in, it doesn't matter who you are, you don't have to overdo it. Just go out there, be smart, do the things that you can do.
Definitely. And, you're going to hear from this interview with Nick Patterson here in a moment, in which he's going to say, we might have been pressing a little bit too much tonight. And that's exactly how I felt offensively, was every time they passed the 50, it'd be 2nd and 5, or, it'd be a manageable down. And they would take a deep shot where they were, potentially putting it 30 yards in the air. Whereas at times they looked pretty good running the ball. Now, I will note, I think they had more plays in which they were stopped for 0 or negative yards than they had in any of their first 3 games this season. But did you feel at times like maybe offensively they were pressing a little bit, as he said?
Yeah. We know, Richland several times tonight, of course, or at the game the other day, about the 3 turnovers you mentioned in opponent's territory. So clearly Richland was able to move the ball.
Right.
The 21-7 score is very deceptive.
And only punted once, by the way.
That's amazing. And you go, punted only once, and you only got 7 points? What's going on? And there were moments where you go, oh, what if? What if it goes this way? We saw it on the first possession where the turf monster got a hold of Aylin Kennedy early, but they were still able to make a great gain there on the first possession. They were moving the ball. And twice where they attempted deep balls, Schrader just had it just outside the reach of the receiver's hands. They're that close. I don't mind taking deep shots. I actually like that Richland wanted to spread Huntland out and take those shots. So it didn't bother me that much.
And final note, I really think the guy who I thought looked best offensively over the course of the night, Colin Cagle, only got 1 touch in the first half, but he ends up being your leading rusher with 8 carries for 54 yards. I'll tell you, I know that he's starting on defense at safety as well. And so, of course, this early in the season where heat is still a factor, I think they're trying to limit the guys who are playing both ways. But guys like him and A.J. Bates, I would have liked to see them get a few more attempts in the rushing game. And I think Cagle has been, for me, from my eyes personally, maybe the best rusher on the team this year. And so I'd like to see him get a few more touches too, because when we saw him, I thought he was really impressive.
Yeah, and I thought for Richland, it was a very good balance of 1-2 punch, almost by committee. I feel like Richland has some good power backs, really. But Cagle provided that extra spark there more in the speed area. So I was impressed.
Well, we'll hear from Coach Nick Patterson of the Raiders here in just a moment after Friday night's game at Huntland. Awesome. And so basically, we're going to come out of that now. And so now we're going to preview community. Ready?
Yeah.
And we're back here on the Richland segment of Beyond the Box Score. You just heard from head coach Nick Patterson of the Raiders after last week's region opener at Huntland. Wanted to go ahead and take a minute now to preview this week's game, which it's interesting that you play the first region game now in week 4, and then week 5 you're right back to the non-region schedule, as they will play for the third time this season a team class 3A or higher. This time it's going to be the 3A Community Vikings. Community, as at one point a class A team just about a decade ago, but they've really seen that school grow to the point where they're actually a region opponent of the Giles County Bobcats for the first time this year. Looking at Community, they've had a really tough go of it, not just the last couple seasons, but in their 21 years as a program, they've actually yet to have a winning season and have never made the playoffs at this point in their 21 years of high school football there. They have had a couple 4-win seasons, but right now they're kind of in the thick of another one of those ruts, as they're 0-4 on the year and have been outscored 179-22. And so, Dylan, if there was a game to have after you had a bit of a letdown at Huntland, you feel like playing probably the easiest game of the year and a team that's been giving up 45 points per game as the offense has struggled a little bit for the Raiders, this is a great opportunity to, kind of exercise some of those demons and, shake some of the rust off on the road.
Yeah, when you sent me these notes, I got to look at them earlier, and I was just floored. Oh, like you said, 0-4, only 22 points so far through 3 games, roughly, for Community, and it just blew me away. 21 years of football. I knew it wasn't as long as a lot of the teams we're used to, but it's not to have a winning season up to this point. It is kind of jarring. And for them to be 3A, that was something that caught my attention.
They're just now 3A.
It's now 3A. And so here's Richland, again, going to I guess we could say a bigger opponent, even though it is an opponent that is 0-4. And it struck me that Community is actually 2-2 versus Richland all time in football. That's incredible. But as you say, 0-4 team, Richland's a little wounded. You know what you were capable of against Huntland, but it just didn't come all together. There were flashes of it. We saw it. So we talk about this being the get-right game. We talk about it in college when you have a down game against a really good opponent, and then the weaker team, I guess, the smaller school comes in, and then you get to feel better about yourself, trying to get things in the right place and getting some confidence back. And so in Richland's case, it's on the road, but this may be one of those cases where, okay, let's try to put this together again. Let's limit our penalties. Let's be crisper in our passing attack. Let's get some confidence back for our starting quarterback, things like that. And let's emphasize our running game maybe even more. So it's a good opportunity, once again, to get back or get right in this case.
And I think you hit the nail on the head there. That's something I really would have liked them see them do a little bit more versus Huntland, which once again, you're playing matchups. And I know for a fact there were probably things that the coaches saw that they're saying, hey, Huntland is a really good defensive team, especially up front. They're going to be a little harder to run the ball against, which we saw sometimes where they got into the backfield for some tackles for losses there. But I would have liked to see Richland establish the run just a little bit more in that game. And I think that this is a game where they can really do that and kind of maybe put together the blueprint for the rest of the season. I think all of us who saw Richland in the preseason would have been very surprised to be saying coming into week 5, they've only been averaging 18 points per game on offense. I mean, now the defense has looked as good or better than advertised, so that's been fantastic. But really, when it comes to the offense, I think that it's been a little bit of a letdown. So this is a perfect opportunity to get things right here, and so we'll see what we get from them there. But just looking at this rivalry series, last time I broadcast a game between Richland and Community, it was actually at Community and was a bit of a decisive loss there for the Raiders. And so I know that those around the program are ready to get back on the winning streak versus the community Vikings there as well. And really, the last thing is limiting the big plays on defense. Because in this past game, as we said, 196 yards given up on 3 plays. You don't give up those 3 plays, I think you probably win this game 14-7 versus Huntland. And so, you can't have those letdowns after so many consecutive good plays where you're letting someone break containment there and then getting out in the open.
Yeah, we said it the other night, how Huntland just seemed to have a little bit more speed at the edge. Once they got out, they were able to turn on the jets. How many times did we see them break away there along the sideline in their own territory and take it the distance? We saw it on their first possession from their 1 yard line, go down, miss a field goal. And then, of course, we saw it several more times, those big chunk plays, like you say. If they're able to eliminate that, I think they're in much better shape.
And for Schrader, too, the short to intermediate passing game versus Huntland, I thought looked really good. Yeah. How many of those little out routes to guys like Kennedy and Sands did we see in which they are able to pick up 8 yards and potentially let them get some yards after catch there? And so rather than having to go deep as many times as they did there, I think there are probably some shorter passing routes that, with as talented as those receivers are, they can make some moves after they get their hands on the football. So some of those shorter passes to the sidelines, I think really will help Schrader build the confidence to maybe hit some of those deep passes later in the game off play action, especially if the run game is going well.
Yeah, I think that's the thing for Schrader. And it's a lot of promise here in that, yes, I'm a freshman quarterback. I struggled in my last game, but I got talent around me. I got guys, I got leaders in the backfield out close to the sidelines that can run go routes, that can run outs, that are going to help me yards after catch, whatever it might be, that it hopefully takes some of that pressure off. You mentioned wide receiver screens. Yeah, which in one sense is like a run in a way.
Yeah.
It's short. It gets you going, that you do feel more comfortable in longer intermediate passes and then maybe eventually taking shots downfield. So Richland certainly has the capability and the weapons to assist Gavin, I think, to bounce back from last week.
So Raiders 2-2 on the season. They'll be traveling to 0-4 Community. Remember, this is not a region matchup, but Raiders trying to get back above 500 this week on the road. We're going to take a quick timeout, though, and hear from Jennifer Hawkins as she had a chance to interview some more folks around the Richland community there at Richland High School. So back in just a moment here on Beyond the Box Score. All right, Coach, tough loss here tonight, but just initially the positives. Third straight week you've held opponents to 21 points or less. Really feels like the defense is coming along this year.
It is. They're holding up their end. We got to do a better job on special teams and on offense, holding up our end for sure.
So when it comes to the turnovers, just what did you feel about tonight, what it held, and what do you think you can tell the guys in terms of what are y'all going to be working on, to try to improve that area?
Well, we just pressed a little bit. It's not any of their faults. We just got in a position where we had to press a little bit, and got to do a better job of holding on the ball and our decision making. But that starts with me.
And I'll tell you, this region, probably the deepest region I can remember in quite a while, feels like it's anyone on any given week. Just going forward, how do you feel about just the week-to-week grind y'all are going to have in a really tough region?
Well, it is, and it's the toughest region in 1A football. You got to come to play every night. Still a whole lot of football to be played. So, we know the team that we are. It's not the team that showed up tonight, but we're going to get some things fixed and handle our business.
And finally, just playing defense. Really stopped Mooney. Did a great job overall. The one thing, though, is Jernigan did have about 200 rushing yards. Just what do you think you saw from him, and what do you think caused issues for the defense?
Well, we had 2 starters out. For one thing, that didn't help. But just, we lost sight of our keys a few times. They do a good job, with their misdirections and that sort of thing. And you got to really be sound on your keys. And, a few times we probably let up on that. But overall, like I said, the defense held up their end. We got to do a better job on offense.
And who were the 2 starters?
Lucas Tarpley and Cam McNeese.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
For over 50 years, PES Energize has been proudly powering our community in Pulaski and Giles County, Tennessee. We're more than just an electric utility. We also offer internet and phone services. Our commitment to our customers and our community is what sets us apart. We're dedicated to providing safe, reliable, and innovative services. At PES Energize, we believe that serving you is a privilege. We're here for all your energy needs. Visit PESEnergize.com or call us today.
Welcome back, Raider Nation, to All Things Richland. I'm Jennifer Hawkins, and today we got another special treat for you guys. These are some of our Lady Raiders soccer members. So these are the 3 senior members of the team, and so we're going to take just a few minutes to get to know them a little bit better. So let me introduce them first, and then we'll get to our questions with them. So we have here Addison McCormick. Next to her is Renata Mendiola. And last we have Kayla Cesari. And so they have put in a lot of time and effort, not just this season, but the seasons of past. And so they have kind of grown this program. And so they would love for you guys to come out and support them. But we want to get to know them a little bit better and what the soccer season has meant to them so far this year. So Addison, I'll let you take that. And so I want to ask you first, how long have you played soccer? What positions do you play? So let's start with that.
So I've played since 2nd grade, so probably around like 11 or 12 years I've played, honestly. And I play striker and left or right wing, and I low-key love those, my favorite spots.
All right, and what's your favorite memory that's going to go with you throughout from your soccer career?
My favorite memory was definitely being like before each and every game. Like we just have music going. It's such like a great fun time for us to connect and be a team. Like the vibes are definitely up if we're not too terribly nervous, but it's honestly, I love those parts. Yeah.
Kind of getting yourself hyped up for the game and just the camaraderie that comes with being part of the team.
Everybody's just having a good time. It's honestly, I love that. Like I will miss that for sure when I'm gone.
Very good. Very good. All right, Renata. So same question to start with. How many years have you played soccer and what positions do you play?
I have been playing soccer for around 10 years. So it's been a while.
Yep.
And I play any position on the defensive line. And I've played a little bit of midfield, but I like to stay close to defense. It's just where I know it's where my heart is.
More natural for you, right?
For sure. And my favorite memory would probably be when we won, I think was it last year? Mm-hmm. Last year we won runner-up on our district division. And while I know it's not first, I guess everyone's striving for first, but we won runner-up after a while of being third or more.
Sitting a little low with that, so when you move up, that feels good.
It was second, there you go. And it was amazing because it just meant that I got to play another game with the team I love. And I guess that's how it feels every single year, after it gets to that point where it's just like every game you win is just an extra game and an extra practice that you get to have. And it hits extra hard now that you're a senior.
I was going to say, it's really coming together. So anytime you can extend that season makes it even that much better, right?
Especially now that we're at the end of our season, it's really just like every last practice, every last game.
All matters. Starting to kind of hit a little bit. I bet that's kind of sinking in a little bit more this year. All right, let's move on to Kayla. I want to ask you also how many years you've been playing, what positions, and then just share with us your favorite memory that you're going to take with you.
So I have been playing soccer for 5 years. And my position is midfield. I can play anywhere, but I prefer on the side with my left just because it's easier. My favorite memory would be scoring after.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
After we score, I get to look around and I get to see my teammates go into their certain person.
Celebratory.
Yes, sure. I'm just like I'm getting it all in. I'm just like, this is my team, and I love how everybody has their person to go to when they're happy that we've done something together.
Yeah, you look for that spot, like who am I going to celebrate with? And you got your girls around you, but you also have your fans that have come out and supported you guys and given you that support throughout the years.
Just all the noise and the energy that everybody brings out.
That's great. So, and I know this year, especially, you guys, those memories are meaning even more as you start to come to your senior season. So, Raider Nation, we really want you guys to come out and support this team here in the fall semester. These ladies are out putting in the work, putting in the hours. Sometimes it's really hot. Other times it's really cold. You've got rain. You've got all kinds of elements that you have to deal with in soccer, but they really would love your support. Right now they're sitting in 3rd in district, but they've got some games left. So they're going to move that up a few notches, and who knows? Who knows? A couple of key wins coming up in the next week or so. They can do this. They're a lot of fun. But let me tell you, the best part of this group is not just what they do on the field, but it's what they do every day here in our hallways. They bring an energy to our school. So it is a great chance for you guys to come out and experience Raider Nation Soccer. So give these girls a shout out when you're here. Let them know you're here to support them. They want to see that celebration and maybe get some scores and get that district win. Hopefully this season it's going to happen. All right. So thank you all for tuning in. Again, I'm Jennifer Hawkins for All Things Richland.
When it comes to real estate, Haney Realty and Property Management is the team you can trust. Our extensive knowledge of the market and industry allows us to help our clients with any real estate need. We know how to get results. So whether you're looking to buy, sell, or rent, let us put our expertise to work for you. Call us today at 931-347-9150 or visit HaneyRealtyPem.com to learn more. Haney Realty and Property Management, your best friend in real estate.
And we're back for our final segment here on Beyond the Box Score. I'm your host, Mark Mize, joined once again by Dylan Manus. Dylan, we had a chance to talk some college football last week, and I thought it went so well, I figured we'd have you back once again. I'll tell you, this week it's early to say this, but what Chandler and I both agree might be an early pick for the game of the year. It was Georgia at Tennessee. I think it really lived up to the billing. Got to watch some of it, got to listen to the end on the radio. And I'll tell you, you talk about a game that had everything from the highs to the lows, a 14-point comeback, a field goal that had a chance to go ahead and end it, and everyone's ready to rush the field. But of course, for the homestanding Volunteers, end up falling in overtime in a 3-point swing there, 44-41. I know as a Tennessee fan, that's tough to see, but what were your thoughts about the game? And overall, what are your thoughts? Has anything changed about your expectations for Tennessee?
Yeah, of course, even Georgia was singing the praises of the atmosphere at Neyland Stadium, and you have to. It is one of the iconic venues in sports, and when it's a good game like that just a good matchup, what we saw added to that, to the game day appearance and the pageantry and all those things, 102,000 plus, it makes for a great scene. And of course, the game just added even more to that. You hope that it adds to that, and it certainly did. So I think it was a good PR move for Tennessee in that regard. Of course, Georgia being the winner, it could have gone either way. I think we saw teams that were very equal in many respects in spite of some injuries. I know on Tennessee's side, having 4 defensive starters out, not that we use it as an excuse. The typical coaching cliche is next man up, and that's what you have to do. To Georgia's credit, they took advantage of some of the freshmen we had playing that did struggle at times, and that's going to happen. We didn't know what to expect from Georgia's quarterback, Gunnar Stockton. Is Georgia going to take any deep shots? And they certainly did. Intermediate, a little bit deeper. Gunnar had some very good throws at times. And at other times, Georgia struggled. Same thing with Tennessee. Joey Aguilar, we were hoping he would have his moment on the stage, and it was great. He did not disappoint. I mean, he kept Tennessee in that ball game. Even when we kind of went into I guess we retreated for the second, most of the third quarters, we weren't done. And so, you play 4 quarters for a reason, and against Georgia, you have to. And so, ended up being a very good game from a neutral fan perspective. For Tennessee going forward, you asked my thoughts. I feel good about the fact that we competed with Georgia, which has been the SEC juggernaut of the last few years, of course. 2 national titles. Kirby Smart's an excellent coach. But at the same time, I think we know that Tennessee is very capable. I think they can play with any team on their schedule. Part of it will be determined by, I think, road atmospheres.
Yeah.
Health of your team. That's every team, by the way. It's not just Tennessee. But I think this team being ranked at number 15 is about right for now. It'd be great to get some more starters back on defense and see what we can do. But I think not to champion moral victories, but we did see some good things to build on. And I think going forward, I think Tennessee still has a lot to play for.
Well, watching that game, I really felt like, just almost unquestionably, I'm watching 2 playoff teams. And so obviously, not both of them are going to win the SEC, right. But at the same time, which 100%, what if we saw a rematch like we saw last year in the SEC championship after last year? Of course, it was Georgia, Texas. We might see the same thing this year. Sure. I think it really boosted the stock for the Volunteers and for Joey Aguilar in particular. He actually went up to 5th in the Heisman Vegas odds now after that game. And so I think that, for him, for the Volunteers, I think it was huge. But the funny thing is I think both teams left that game feeling pretty good because Tennessee, one, they competed the way they did. They, played really well at home, and they played throughout despite the injuries.
Yeah.
But for the Bulldogs, I think they had a little bit to prove because people had kind of been picking at them the last 2 weeks because they looked so lethargic. But when they needed to wake up, they did. And Gunnar Stockton, who I'll be honest, I wasn't very high on, I think I have a bit of a newfound respect for. And that was something we mentioned in our first segment today, Chandler and I, is the fact that the 4 quarterbacks who were highest in the Heisman preseason odds for the SEC now suddenly have kind of been supplanted by 4 new quarterbacks in the SEC. And I think Aguilar's one of them. I think Stockton's one of them. I think Pavia is probably one of them, as we'll talk about that in just a moment. But I think this was a good game for both teams, and I think that they have a lot to look forward to. Just looking at the other big games last week, Florida at LSU was one of the strangest games that I watched. We were actually at a restaurant, my wife and I, and so I got a chance to watch a good bit of that. I think that both teams felt good in Georgia, Tennessee leaving that game. I feel like both teams have felt bad leaving Florida and LSU. Brian Kelly, the first question he gets in the post game is asking about the offense, and he takes exception at it. But for your team, your offense to only put up 13 points, because remember, one of their touchdowns was a defensive score, to have DJ Lagway throw 5 interceptions and you only put 13 points up on offense, that's got to be a little bit of a troubling sign for them, Dylan.
Yeah, and speaking not as a Tennessee fan, but just as a neutral college football fan here, Lagway's very talented. I didn't get to see the entire game. I saw bits and pieces of several games as I changed viewing options throughout the night from restaurant to the TV to my phone to my TV at the house, trying to keep up with several good games on we had that night. And so I didn't get quite the flow that you would get staying with one game. But so when I heard that Lagway had 5 interceptions, I thought, did I hear that correctly? Because he's a very talented quarterback. He has a lot of upside. And against a very stout LSU team, of course. We know what they're capable of, especially in Baton Rouge. And you got the
Right.
home crowd behind you. And so yeah, and certainly for Brian Kelly, I mean, I can understand his frustration, but at the same time, here's where they are, and you're going to call a spade a spade. And so this offense that we were touting, that the media was touting after Clemson, and all of a sudden, SEC opponent, first SEC game of the season, you struggle. Why? It's Nussmeier. He's projected to be a high draft pick, Heisman Trophy candidate. It makes you a little nervous. And for Florida, coming off of the South Florida loss, you're going into Baton Rouge. What a bad time for that. And you still make a game of it to some degree.
Yeah, and the thing is, with as many weapons they had returning, LSU is going to get that criticism. There is going to be a microscope on them. And I think that so many people are surprised because the defense was going to be good, but the defense has been their saving grace this year. And I think that's really surprising for a lot of people. And, surprising because 2 years ago, LSU's defense was the laughingstock of the SEC. They were just atrocious. Blake Baker has come in there, and I think you can see why he's the highest paid assistant in college football is because, he's basically been the best defensive coordinator in the SEC the last 2 years, turning an LSU program into a legitimate threat again. And the reason that I think they're a playoff team is because of the defense right now. The offense will have its chance, but no, I think that, that's concerning for them. And for Florida, how good has this Florida defense been this year? And how many extra questions does that raise about the regression we've seen from Lagway and just that offense as a whole with the weapons they have? I think they're in a really tough spot. Billy Napier is in a very tough spot.
He is. I've seen many teams that wear the orange shirt where, oh, what a defense. Oh, if we only had an offense, it'd be a complete team. It's awful when you got one unit that you're elite. Oh, but the other side, you're not elite, and it shows in the record. And so it is frustrating, both for Florida fans, and for Billy Napier right now.
And then last one from last week, Vanderbilt at South Carolina. I picked South Carolina in the newspaper for this one.
Yeah.
Of course, didn't expect Lenore Sellers to, end up getting injured and having to leave that game, but they were already losing to Vandy when he left. I'm not sure if him staying the whole time would have done anything. Suddenly, I don't think there's any reasonable chance Vanderbilt makes the playoffs. But just what a job Clark Lee and his coaching staff there have done. Just unbelievable. Diego Pavia is the toughest player in the SEC, I think, really playing beyond his talent. And, when you talk about a team that has found a system that works for them and has gotten a boost from NIL money, just to be honest with you, Vanderbilt's a team that looks like they could become a 7 or 8 game type of winning team in the SEC with the things that are starting to build there.
Yeah, the days of, Vanderbilt, W, next opponent, where you can almost call it, here's the way the schedule is going to go for my team this year. You have to go Vanderbilt, well, maybe no W, it may be a fight for 60 minutes, and that's what it's become. Vanderbilt has become a team under Clark Lee, similar to how James Franklin ran it, even before the NIL and all of those different intangibles there. It's a team that you want to be careful. You want to be sure that you show up. If you're ready for them, okay. But if you're not ready or you overlook them, be careful, because that's a team that will play with the blue chip on their shoulder. Nobody respects us. We're a little low Vanderbilt. And speaking for Clark Lee and what the job he's done, like you said, he is Vanderbilt. That's his alma mater. He takes it seriously. It is a pride thing for him. He wants it to be. He wants to do well. To our knowledge, he's not looking for another spot. He's where he wants to be in Nashville, where he went to school. And of course, we love to see those stories where the head coach, he goes back to his alma mater and he wants to leave a legacy there. And Clark Lee certainly could do that. And I think, like you said, NIL, transfer portal certainly has helped Vanderbilt in the last couple of seasons. Pavi is a baller. He'll talk and then he'll back it up. He does. You go into Columbia, South Carolina, Williams-Brice Stadium, with what we would think is a pretty hot South Carolina team as far as where they've been and their ascension under Frank Beamer. And I've been in that stadium. That's a hard atmosphere to play in. And you make a good point there regarding Sellers. They were already controlling the game with him in. And then he had to leave. They bring in Doty, who had started, I think, before Sellers. And
did it go downhill.
It did. And of course,
it was similar to the previous week against Virginia Tech. Remember, they were down 20-10 at one point, and they smoked the Hokies and actually ended up getting their coach fired with that one. Yes. I don't think Shane Beamer's getting fired after this one, but still, it's just unbelievable there. We took a little more time on our last week's recap than I thought we would, so now we're going to the lightning round. A couple quick questions here. Texas Tech at Utah, I think this one should have got College Game Day. I really don't know why they went to Miami for a 1-2 Florida team playing the hottest team in the country, Miami. I mean, I feel like Miami's going to smoke them there. So Texas Tech at Utah, I think this is the Big 12 championship in the regular season, in my opinion. Texas Tech has had one of the best NIL and transfer portal off seasons of any team in the whole country. Utah under Kyle Whittingham, the reason he came back. Remember, he's the second longest tenured coach in all of college football as a head coach. Been there since 2005. I think the reason he came back for one final season is because he thought he could win the Big 12. And suddenly, we're talking in week 4 getting this matchup. I'm really excited about it, Dylan.
Yeah, I didn't know exactly the work situation for Kyle Whittingham as far as looking to retire. He's been there so long. I remember when he took over when I was a senior in high school. I'm dating myself. That's how long it's been. He took over for Urban Meyer. And what'd he do? He went to Florida and won 2 national titles and ended up at Ohio State. I mean, so what a great run he had as well. But Whittingham stayed at Utah. He loves it there. He's beloved there. He's become maybe their greatest coach ever. I don't know his exact numbers, but you know what you're going to get with Utah. He's consistent. It's a solid program. I've enjoyed watching Utah settle in from Mountain West to Pac-12 to Big 12, and you just expect them to be a contender for where they are each year, and I really appreciate that. Those years with Cam Rising, I was always pulling for him, and they've proven themselves. They went to UCLA, which of course is falling on hard times, and they're looking just sharp. I'm excited about this game as you are, Mark. And Texas Tech's one of those where they're oftentimes the stepsister in a way. They're under the radar because of Texas A&M. They're in West Texas, close to the Panhandle, and so they tend to get overlooked. But we forget it's still Texas, and they're going to have their boosters as well. So that's very impressive how they've been able to navigate NIL and put them in this position where they're ranked. Sometimes Texas Tech is ranked and they'll fall out of the top 25. They're kind of in and out. It's hard to predict, but I'm excited for the Big 12 in this kind of matchup. And the Big 12 is loaded anyway. There's a good handful of teams that in one sense could beat up on each other through this process. But I'm looking forward to this one.
One we won't mention quite as much about, but probably the premier ranked matchup this week is number 9 Illinois at, I believe, number 19, Indiana. Indiana, though, a 6.5-point favorite in Bloomington. Kind of thought that one might be College game day, so that should be an interesting matchup in the Big Ten. And then finally, the other big SEC matchup I want to see is Auburn at Oklahoma there. Jackson Arnold gets a chance to come back to Oklahoma. Auburn's rushing game has been so good this year, but Oklahoma's defense has looked fantastic, and I think John Mateer is probably one of the most dynamic when you talk about a guy making something out of nothing. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of offensive talent around him, and he has a rebuilt offensive line, but just a guy who makes plays, kind of the way that Diego Pavia does. I think that should be a really interesting matchup there in Norman.
Yeah, I think both of these teams, very proud programs, very proud histories at these two schools, Auburn and Oklahoma. And normally you'd look at this before a season and without even looking at the rankings, you go, oh, Auburn, Oklahoma, that's a game day kind of game. That's what you normally think. And we're at this point with the Brent Venables at Oklahoma coming off of a up and down year, kind of hard to navigate with the quarterback situation. You know, Brent trying to find himself first year in the SEC. And then Auburn, of course, their situation with Coach Freeze. Third year, we're getting kind of frustrated. So how do these coaches deal with that kind of pressure? They're both in unique situations in regarding their coaches, their fan bases, those expectations that they want to maintain at those schools. I think it's an interesting time early in the year to kind of be a tone setter, I think, going into SEC play for them.
Definitely. So a lot of great college football matchups this week as well as every week of the fall season. So Dylan, got to talk a little high school football, a little college football, and now this weekend we get to enjoy it.
I love it. I love this whole season, high school football, college football. It makes for a great weekend.
Absolutely. So thanks again for listening to and watching Beyond the Box Score. I want to thank everyone who was part of today's program: Dylan Manus, Jennifer Hawkins, Chris Bledsoe, and Chandler Harmon, my co-host. Also a special shout out to our producer, Scott Stewart. So remember, you can catch all of our coverage this week as we will be both broadcasting on WKSR, Richland at Community, and then also social media posts, game story, and photography from Landon Hawkins as well. And so check out our website and also the print edition of the Pulaski Citizen next week for more of that coverage. But one final time, this has been Mark Mize on Beyond the Box Score. Hope you enjoy your weekend and all of the football that is to come. But thanks as always for tuning in.